All right, so now it's being recorded. First of all, let me say thank you for joining today's webinar. I hope you'll find it useful. I hope you'll find some great insights how to prevent fraud within your organization or for your customers. So the topic for today's webinar is how to detect and prevent accounts payable fraud before it causes damage. Before we'll dive in, let us first introduce ourselves. I'll start with myself. My name is Alex Kesselman. I'm a solution engineer here at ApprovalMax. And for the past 7 years, my main job was to speak with our customers globally, understand what are their challenges, and implement technology so it will be all automated and much more effective. I also do have a Kaylee here on the call with me. She's from the sunny Tenerife. So I'm passing over to you to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about what is your role in the business.
Amazing. Good morning, everybody. And as Alex said, I'm Kaylee Graham, and I am the Head of Partnerships and Growth here at Telleroo. And ultimately, my role is all around supporting our accounting partners and businesses across the UK to automate payroll and supplier payments and ultimately take the pain out of those processes.
Awesome. Great having you here. So what's on our agenda for today? We have many things to discuss. We'll start with short polls, just 2 polls for you, just to understand what are the apps that you're using already and what are some of the challenges that you're facing within your accounts payable process. Once we'll learn that, we'll speak briefly about both of our products. We'll start with ApprovalMax and how does it work. Then we'll talk about Telleroo and how does that work. Then we'll take a look on the actual topic of today's webinar, and we'll learn what are some of the features and some of the tools within both of our products that will help us to detect and fix some potential fraudulent activities. So both on ApprovalMax side and then on Telleroo side. Then we'll have a short live demo, the way this integration works between both of our products, how would bills be created, approved, and sent over to Xero, and then how would Telleroo pick it up and send for payment. We'll all learn that within our live session, showing both products at the same time. Then we'll have one last poll. It will be a surprise a bit, so let's keep it for the end. And at the very end, we'll have a Q&A section. Though I would highly encourage you to ask any questions along the way, simply so we won't miss anything. You have Q&A section within the Zoom, so you can place all of your questions over there. All right, so I think the goals are set, and now we can move on to the actual presentation, to the actual demo, and to the actual topic for today's webinar. And I'll start with a short introduction to ApprovalMax. Oh, right, I forgot about the polls. Yes, let's first run the polls and identify what are the tools that we are using. So let me launch it. You should be able to see polls right now here on your screen, so feel free to select which options you're using already. Awesome. I see first votes are coming in. Oh, wow.
Very nice.
Very nice. Kaylee, probably you won't be able to talk much about the Telleroo because I see that majority of users, a majority of attendees already using Telleroo, and probably they know already the way it works.
Amazing. I'll just go take a nap on the sunbed now.
Yeah. Yeah, so today is going to be like a very chilled session. I'm in Turkey and the weather here is perfect. You're in Tenerife, and I believe the weather there is perfect as well.
Absolutely.
So last 5 seconds, those who have not yet voted, feel free to do that. And I will stop the poll very, very shortly. Okay, so let's end the poll and I will share the results with you. So as you can see, majority, I would say 86% of attendees using Xero, and surprisingly, vast majority of you already using Telleroo and ApprovalMax. That's great. So you probably know a lot already about our products, but still it might be worth mentioning some of these additional tools and some of these additional features that are available within our products that will help you detect and prevent fraud. All right, so now let's run the second poll, and that's one to identify what are your current challenges. So let me start this one. It's multi-choice, so you can select as much as you want. And that will help us to understand what are some of these challenges that you're facing right now, and maybe tailor our demo in regards to those things. Okay. What an engaged audience. Thank you very much. Right, we have 70% participants already voted and counting. So just a few more. We have 20 seconds left.
This is really interesting, seeing how they're changing.
All right, last 5 seconds. Okay, thank you very much for everyone who have voted. Let me end the poll and share the results with you so you will see what's going on. And we see that the vast majority, the main challenge would be is the risk of human error while doing the payments. So we are in a great spot here. And at the same time, incorrect and incomplete coding, keep track of what's being approved versus not. So all of the it's actually very, very common answers. Each time we're doing these webinars, we see quite the same answers. And that's great. Hopefully today's session will give you some insights on how to resolve those challenges. All right, now let's actually dive into the presentation, and I'll start with introduction to ApprovalMax. In case you're not yet familiar with our product, ApprovalMax was founded 6 years ago in 2016, and since that time, we became quite a big part of both Xero and QuickBooks Online ecosystems. Now, by the way, we're also integrated with Oracle NetSuite and Deer Inventory, so in case some of your customers using these systems, it is now possible to implement ApprovalMax for them as well. But coming back to Xero integration, coming back to QuickBooks Online, if we'll take a look on Xero Marketplace, for example, we'll find more than 250 plus 5-star rating reviews from the customers and partners who is using our product on the day-to-day basis. At the same time, in 2020, ApprovalMax became Xero App Partner of the Year, starting from New Zealand market. The next year, 2021, we became Xero App Partner of the Year once again, but this time in UK market. And this year, 2022, we became the finalist for the same award. However, what do we do? If we'll take a look on the companies out there, we'll see that the vast majority of them are still using some outdated, redundant ways of approving their financial documents. Some are still printing out the documents like bills and purchase orders, and then they would go through the office trying to receive a physical stamp on it. So quite an outdated way to approve your documents, especially during those pandemic times when a lot of us have been working from home. Well, I believe most of us have been working from home, and it simply became impossible. So switching over to email-based approval system might sound like a great idea. However, it's not scalable enough. If you have maybe 2-3 people within your team making all of the decisions, then it will be working fine. But once your company is growing, once you have more and more people involved in the approval process, it becomes really a game of cat and mouse, where you will need to send all of these multiple notifications, keep track whatever being approved versus not, and it just takes a lot of time. And at the same time, time equals money. It takes a lot of money doing this meaningless work. And that is what ApprovalMax is trying to resolve. Our main idea here, the core idea behind the product, is to create multi-step, multi-level approval workflows. A workflow, it is nothing more than just a sequence of approval steps where users, your approvers, will know exactly what they need to approve based on the rules that we've created in the workflow. From the approver standpoint, the whole process becomes very seamless, very straightforward, because they can do their approvals on the go. You can download our mobile app, you can do your approvals via email notifications, or you can simply log into our web application and see everything that is awaiting your approval. From the security standpoint, on the other hand, the whole process becomes much more secured because, first of all, there is no need for you to give any access to your approvers into your accounting platform. So you can be the only one who will have access to Xero, and everyone else will have very limited permissions on the things that they allow to approve. And from your side, from an accountant or a bookkeeper side, you'll have a clear audit control of everything that's going on within your financial documents. So per each request that we are approving, we're first of all generating the audit reports, and they are streamlined over to your Xero or QBO accounts. And at the same time, within ApprovalMax itself, you will have the audit trails, and you can keep track whatever happened to each and every request of yours, purchase order or bill or anything else. So that's the main idea behind the product. Now, if we'll take a look on some of the key features of the product, and as I mentioned already, the core idea behind ApprovalMax would be multi-step and multi-level approval workflows. And you can work both on accounts payable and accounts receivable side. So we have a separate workflow for purchase orders, for bills, for credit notes, for sales invoices, for adding new suppliers, and a new workflow, which is called batch payment workflow. But it is not only about the workflows, actually. There is much, much more behind the product that can help and build your spend control a bit more robust. Things like bill to purchase order matching, let's say, which will allow you to keep track on your expenditures. So you'll be able to raise your purchase orders, submit them for approval, and then once you'll receive supplier invoice, you'll be able to match those bills against the POs and really see what is your balance, what is the outstanding balance, and so on and so on. And you can match not only one-to-one, but rather many bills to one PO or vice versa. Things like budget checking, which will allow your approvers in real time compare budgets that you keep in your zero budget manager against the bills and purchase orders they see in ApprovalMax account. So they can see what is the remaining balance, what would be the impact of the document that they're approving right now, and what's the status of that. Things like customizable reports and audit trails. I already mentioned the audit trail before, but overall, you can build up a very, very customized reports and see what's going on within your account, maybe based on the department, and you would like to see how many bills are pending approval and who are we waiting for, how many bills were already approved and how long the decision took, and how many bills were already paid and what was the payment date. You'll be able to build all of those things within the product itself. And of course, as a main topic for today's webinar, we have a special tools to prevent some fraudulent activities. So we have a fraud detection and analysis tool, which will allow you to keep track on things if someone is trying to bypass the workflow or if someone is trying to change things after the final approval. Our system will send you a notification and will keep track on some such potential fraudulent activities. And you can build up the report based on those things. And of course, pretty much everything that I've already told you is available within our mobile app. You'll be able to raise your purchase orders and approve them. Same goes for bills, credit notes, and sales invoices. You can do the bill to PO matching, budget checking, see all of the attachments, comment with your colleagues. All of that is available within our mobile app. So feel free to download it. It's free of charge and available for both iOS and Android. Now, coming back to Telleroo, I would like to pass over mic to Kaylee. So talk about your platform.
Amazing, thank you very much. So moving across to payments then, when we look at payments in the UK, B2B payments in particular, about 54% of them are made via bank transfers to one another. And yet the process is often very laborious and takes a whole bunch of effort, right? So you've got business owners logging into bank accounts, manually typing in bank details, putting cards into card readers to get codes to then put in to eventually then get payments out the door, and then double check that they were correct and really follow up on that process. So back in 2016, Telleroo was launched really with the whole idea of taking the pain out of payments and streamlining that process as much as possible, both for business owners directly, but also for their accountants, bookkeepers, and advisors that support in that journey. So since then, we've gone on to join the Xero ecosystem back in 2020, and 5-star reviews across the Xero App Store, G2, and Capterra, which I think just shows how much focus we put on this, right? And the real emphasis that we're putting on building a brilliant experience for everyone that uses us. Which feeds into the piece that so far we've now sent over £3 billion and very much the number one tool for making those bulk payments. Can I get you to move on a slide for me, Alex? Thank you. So thinking about what we've been up to then and how we're making those payments easier, it's really around bringing everything into one centralized hub. So instead of having a spreadsheet of what payments you need to make and then having bank details stored somewhere else and then typing them in, it's around bringing all of that into one place. So you're not reliant on bank mandates and trying to get your accountant added to very little success a lot of the time with the amount of bank branches that are being closed down. No kind of numerous logins, codes, card readers, as I mentioned, but mainly the ability to save that time and de-risk those payments, right? When we look at all of the challenges that business owners are facing at the moment, the last thing we want is business owners spending 1, 2, 3, 4 hours a week making payments when they actually want to be focusing on growing their business, delivering great service, all of those things that they originally set up the business to do. And so if we can strip that out and give that time back, that's absolutely brilliant. Very much feeding into stopping that CEO bottleneck. Often payments do end up sitting right at the top of that. And so again, if we can start to delegate some of that down, ideal, but we still want you to maintain that control. And so as I go on to talk about features and we get into the demo, you'll start to see how that's all possible. But ultimately, as I say, it really is around saving time and streamlining that process, and all works beautifully with the likes of Xero and ApprovalMax. Thank you. Thinking about key features then, again, some of this we'll start to see as we demo, but ultimately, top one there, pay zero bills without needing zero access. This is a huge one, right? If you are looking at controls and the ability to keep a tight-knit circle of people that have got access to be in zero, to be editing things, this is absolutely brilliant. You can delegate down payment instructions without having to give away that full access. Invoices to the same supplier merged into one payment. Again, this is around convenience and that saving time. If you've got 10 invoices to the same supplier, let's merge that into one payment and use the ability to send out remittances to let them know which invoices have been paid, right? Assigning payment creators and approvers, this again will feed into the demo and how we're trying to prevent that fraud. But actually, if you've got a really clear chain of command in terms of who creates payments, who reviews them, who approves them, you've got that really nice audit log and you know exactly who did what and when. New and updated bank details being flagged, again, important. My background originally is in commercial and corporate banking, and the amount of fraud that you see happening where invoices are intercepted and bank details are changed and payments go out, and it's not until 30 days later that a supplier is chasing for late payment that you realize actually that money never went to the right place, and then all of the stress, etc., that comes along with that. So again, being aware of that right at the early stages is super important. Reconciliation, again, massive. We don't want business owners or accountants sitting there spending ages doing that reconciliation once payments have been made. So let's streamline that, let's batch that up and make it really quickly. And then send payments instantly or schedule for the future. There will be undoubtedly a lot of people on this call that have used fax facilities, right? Where actually you get the file in 3 days before and then you wait for it to be processed and fingers crossed those payments make it out the other side, right? Actually, we have a faster payments network. We're all used to logging into our own personal banking and sending payments at the touch of a button. Actually, let's bring that into businesses. Let's be using that so that actually you can send payments right now. You've also got the flexibility to schedule them and then fly off to Turkey or Tenerife like me and Alex and enjoy the sunshine, knowing that everything is set up and good to go.
Yep, that's beautiful stuff. That's actually the reason why we're both here in Tenerife and Turkey and enjoying time, because when you have things automated, then it makes the whole life much, much easier. And I cannot wait to see the way it works in action. So later on during the demo, how this integration from one place to another flows, it really works as a magic. So coming to the main topic for today's webinar, what are the fraud detection and prevention tools that both of these platforms can provide to you? Let me start with ApprovalMax. And just some of these tools here, 7 of them, actually 8, but I will talk about the last one additionally because it's not yet published. It is a private beta, but still it might be worth mentioning. So the first one is about flexible approval workflows to automate your delegation of authority policy. It might be very obvious, but at the same time, not everyone knows what are the threats if you're not using some streamlined process. And one big thing, and it actually comes from the email approval systems, that it's super easy to make a phishing emails and send it over to someone from your team. Imagine if you have 100 people approving different things and someone would like to receive some fraudulent payment, they can simply create an email address that will look exactly like your maybe CEO or some of your suppliers, and it will be sending that over to your email, and then they will have access either to your computer or they will just receive the payment. So having a streamlined and unified process across all of your companies, making sure that users are actually added into your ApprovalMax account and knowing what they need to approve will limit this possibility of the phishing attacks. So having access to your system within the system itself will limit them to these potential fraudulent activities. And at the same time, since we have a unified process and everyone knows exactly what they need to approve on specific approval step, the whole thing will become much more streamlined, much more secure. They will straight away receive their push notification on their mobile app, email notification, or just going within this requires my decision screen, seeing exactly what is awaiting their approval. Makes the whole process for you and for your team members much, much more convenient. Again, audit trails and audit reports. It's a great tool for you to keep track whatever happened to each and every request, who made the decision, why they've made it, and when they've made it. And per each request that we are approving, we are automatically generating these audit reports, and they are sent over to your Xero or QuickBooks Line account. And then once Telleroo will pick up this bill, you'll also be able to see these audit reports within the platform itself. So Kaylee later on will show you the way it looks. I've mentioned already, restricting access to zero. It's a very obvious one, but at the same time, very important one, because having your users, people who are not into finance, not into the accounting, having access to zero, it's probably not the greatest idea at all. So they will be exposed to all of this financial data, all the financial statements. Perhaps it's much better if you'll keep them away from zero, so they won't do anything bad, and just simply give them access to a tool like ApprovalMax, where they will be able to see everything that is awaiting their approval without doing anything bad. So, detecting changes after approval and documents approved directly in Xero. We have a special tool called Fraud Detection and Analysis Tool. You can enable that within the workflow itself. And this tool will allow you to keep track if someone is trying to bypass the workflow. Let's say if someone has access to Xero, they will raise the bill or purchase order, and they will just simply click on approve. If you have thousands invoices, thousands purchase orders, it simply can happen by accident or intentionally. So this fraud detection tool will allow you to pull these documents back into ApprovalMax, and it will notify you as organization administrator about such things. Same thing goes for the changes that were made after the final approval. So imagine you've raised a purchase order, it went through all approval steps, everyone agreed that everything's fine. Now this purchase order is sitting in Xero under approved section, and someone who has access to Xero will change things. Maybe they will change the supplier, or maybe they will change an amount or something like that. So in case you would like to keep track on such things, ApprovalMax will allow you to do that. Bill to purchase order matching. Well, this one might be a bit strange why it's under the fraud detection tools, but at the same time, it will allow you to keep track on what is your expenditure month by month. Imagine if you raise the PO at the beginning of the year, and then once a month, or maybe several times per month, you receive your invoices from your supplier, and you want to make sure that everything is intact on what you had in your purchase order. ApprovalMax will allow you to do this bill to PO matching. You can match as many bills to as many purchase orders. You can allocate certain amounts to those POs and see who made the matching. So all of that information will be available for you and for your approvers within your ApprovalMax account. Moreover, if you have a very strict process of matching bills to purchase order, you can select in the settings that only fully matched bills can be approved. So therefore, you will need to have purchase order first, then you'll need to match them against your bills against the POs, and only then you'll be able to approve such bills. And of course, information about the matching will be available within the audit reports. So later on in Telleroo, you will be able to see that these bills were matched against the PO. It's all fine, so now we can make a payment. The sixth one is the supplier approvals. That is quite a new workflow that we've created, and this one was designed for those of you who want to add wants to add new suppliers into your Xero account in a much more convenient way. So typically what we see, there is two options. One way would be just to give access to all of your users so they will be able to create new suppliers by their own. And typically it brings us to a lot of challenges. First of all, data is not enriched. Then we receive a lot of duplicate suppliers and some potential fraudulent suppliers, something that we don't want. The other option would be for accountant or a financial person to raise all of these new suppliers straight in Xero, but it takes a lot of time for you. And this workflow, supplier creation workflow, will allow you to give access firstly to your users to raise new suppliers and enrich data with all the relevant data, all the relevant information, but only once these new suppliers will be approved by yourself, by an accounting team, or someone from the higher management team. Only then these suppliers will be created on the Xero side, and they will be available for you in a ApprovalMax site for raising POs or bills. The seventh, it's two-factor authentication and auto logout. Especially if you're working in a shared environment or maybe somewhere in public, you want to make sure that all of your financial documents are secured and no one from outside will have access to them. So you can enable two-factor authentication with Google Authenticator, and you can also enable the auto logout after 15 minutes of an activity. So then, in case something wrong, no one will have access to your account. Moreover, within the users section, you'll be able to see who from your team already enabled the two-factor authentication. And in case you have a strict policy of everyone should be enabling these two FAs, then it is possible for you to see who already enabled 2FA and who is not, and then ping them additionally. And the last one, which is not listed here, but it's already will be released very, very soon. And if you'd like to give it a try, you can always send a message to our support team or to our sales team, and they will enable that for your account. It's the bill duplicate check feature. So now if you'll raise the bill for the same amount for the same supplier, you can raise it as many times as you want to, but ApprovalMax will flag those duplicates, and that will be something for you to decide if it's a duplicate actually, and you're willing to reject this bill, or if it's a normal bill, and then you can pass it over to Telleroo. So these are just several very important features that you can enable within your ApprovalMax account. And now I'm passing over to Kaylee to talk about some potential some tools within Telleroo that might prevent fraud.
Amazing, thank you very much. So I guess first thing there is actually you've been through an approval process with ApprovalMax, hopefully, and actually the invoices are now sitting in Xero, for example, and essentially now good to be paid, right? They've been through that approval process, yep, we need to pay these people. And so at this point, this is really where our tools then kick in. So the first one there being new and updated bank details being flagged. So you have the ability under suppliers in Xero to store bank details. And actually that's where we pick them up from, right? We're picking up the bills that you want to pay and those bank details. But with that access, someone may have gone in and added new bank details. They may have changed the bank details that are in there. And so that's something we flag to you on our side. We will say, hey, you haven't paid these guys before. Is that something you're sure you want to do? And you have the ability to go back and verify whether they are the correct bank details, or actually is this a valid supplier we should be paying. But also you can see if they've been updated. And again, that was something we saw very commonly when I was back in banking, was that actually someone's would be called or get an email saying, hey, we've changed our bank details. And so actually you update them on your side and pay them. And again, that problem gets shown later down the line when you'll then find out you actually haven't paid them. So very conscious of that. We flag that to you before any payments are made, so that actually you can make a choice as to whether you're comfortable progressing with a payment. Second being our bank detail scanner. So actually, if bank details aren't stored for a supplier, but you've got that invoice attached in Xero, we can scan that and show you what kind of bank account and sort code are being shown on there. And actually, you're then able to push those details back into Xero to update the supplier. The really nice thing about that is you can choose who in Telleroo has the ability to do that. And it means that they don't have to have access to the bank details section in Xero. So again, you can limit the access on that side, but still give people the ability to update things as and where necessary. Creator and approver permissions, I touched on this before, but you can create your own kind of workflow around how this works. So actually you can have potentially a junior member of the team that is creating payments and setting them up, but you have someone else slightly more senior that's reviewing it, someone else that's approving it, so that again, you've got that control the whole way through. See the approval flow in ApprovalMax. I'll touch on this in the demo section, but we give you the ability to see that PDF of who approved what when, just to give you that kind of second vote of confidence before you go ahead and actually make payment. We run a modulus check on all of the account details that come in as well. And what that essentially does is validates that, yes, this account number exists at this sort code, we can make a payment here. So again, just another bit of confidence around where the money is actually going. Payment limits to make sure you don't pay more than expected, right? If someone was to fraudulently get something by and it gets to payment, despite all of the wonderful tools ApprovalMax and us have in place, actually this is almost a bit of a fail safe at the end of that, right? That says, okay, you've told us that as a business, your payroll is £10,000 a month and you pay £50,000 worth of suppliers. And so actually that's a total of 60,000. So if we see a payment come in for £150,000, we're going to put a little stop on that and we're going to ask the question, hey, does this feel right? Is this what you're meant to be doing? Is this something you want? We can increase the limit, that's not a problem, but let's just check that this is actually what you want to happen. Very similar to if anyone's ever had a transaction where their bank has stopped it, you've got a call from their fraud department. Very, very similar idea, right? It's just to verify that you are 100% happy with this purchase. And then transaction monitoring, that again is very much on our side. We have a number of criteria and I guess almost tick boxes that are being checked constantly on all of the transactions. And if anything feels like it might not be right or it's hitting a few of those criteria, again, we have the ability to stop that and ask a few more questions. And we've had this before where someone comes back and they go, no, it's a valid payment, let it go. And that's absolutely fine, right? But we're here to try and protect you and to protect the business. And so sometimes that does mean asking a few extra questions and making sure that that's right, but it's all done with the kind of safety and security of the business in mind. And then last but not least, something you'll be used to seeing almost everywhere is two-factor authentication, right? And that again is just making sure no one can get their hands on your money and start making payments without a trusted code to get you in the first time.
Yes, great stuff. I remember this one time, at least you're asking, like, is it something you want to do? I remember this one time I've been somewhere, I think in Czech Republic, and I was in the restaurant already asking for the bill, and my bank, they just simply blocked my card just because like they thought it's a strange transaction that I'm having a meal in another country. So that was quite a strange thing. All right, so just a little story here. And we're coming actually to the main part, and I will still pass over mic over to Kaylee to talk about the actual product and show the live demo. So let me stop sharing my screen and allow.
So I guess just to bring some of this to life, right? It's going to touch on all the things I just said, but it's just to bring a few of them to life so you can see them in action. So this is a client here, Turnstiles Limited, our example one here that is connected up to Xero. And so in Telleroo, you're able to click into Xero bills. And what you get here is a lovely list of all of your invoices that are sitting under awaiting payment in Xero. So what you can then do is go through, take any of those that you might want to pay as part of a pay run, and ultimately then click create pay run. Now, before I actually do that, you can see here, Telleroo Limited, our fake sister company. If I click on this little attachment next to it, I'm going to get a little pop-up here. And what that's going to do is show me the invoice itself that's attached in Xero. But actually, if I go to the next page, what I've then got is the piece from ApprovalMax, which is showing me that actually this invoice has been approved. And it's showing me who approved it and when, at what time, and all of the descriptions there as well. So that actually, if I'm going through and selecting which invoices I want to pay, I can see that, hey, yes, this invoice is sitting in awaiting payment, but here's the confirmation that it's been through our internal processes that it needs to, and that I'm confident that, yeah, this is good to go and I can make this payment. So at that point, as I say, I've selected the ones I want. I can click create pay run, another pop up here. I can see the payees. I can choose which references I want, when they're actually due, and then the bank account details. And so on Telleroo Limited, I've got no bank account details here. But what I can do is scan that invoice as I mentioned. It's going to show me the invoice below. I click scan invoice for bank details, and it's going to pull a sort code and account number from that invoice and populate them up here. There you go. So then what I would be able to do is click update contact detail in Xero, and that will push that back to Xero and update that supplier contact so that actually moving forward, they have got bank details in there. Once that's all done, that would essentially just create a pay run, which here's one I had earlier. So there's only a couple of payments in this one, but you can see the flag that I mentioned earlier. So these are two people that I haven't paid before. So it's flagging to me, hey, this is the first time you're paying. These bank details are new to us. Is this something you want to go ahead with? And then again, at that point, I could make a choice. Actually, does this feel right? Does it not? Potentially, I've got ApprovalMax pieces to look at and say, yes, that's right. No, it's not. Whatever that might be. And then next to tech builders, if I click on that little icon, I can also click view in ApprovalMax. And what that will do is open the bill up actually in ApprovalMax so that I can explore it in more detail if I want to. Back in the pay run itself, you can see this one sitting at awaiting review, and I can't review it because I am not the reviewer for this. And so what would happen is that might be someone else in the team. They would have received an email saying, hey, there's a new pay run for you to review. They can come in, look at all of this information, mark it as reviewed, at which point it would go to awaiting approval. The person that's the approver gets the email, they go in. And actually at that point, if they're happy, great, they can approve it, but they can also go, actually, tech builders, I don't want to pay them, and they can cancel that payment off and we'll move it back to awaiting payment in Xero. Once it's all approved, goes to scheduled and essentially sits there until the payment time comes around. And then, as I mentioned, we're using Faster Payments Network to get those out essentially instantly, which is great. But that is just, I guess, a little bit of a snapshot of how those features work together so that you can just have that added security as you're going through that payment process, right? We're removing some of the challenges people mentioned on the poll around manually inputting the data and the time that it takes and reconciliation and all of that stuff, right? So actually what you've got is ApprovalMax at the front end, really making sure that we're comfortable with what's going in, and then we're just doing those double checks on the back end actually as you start pushing funds out to people. Thanks, Alex. Back to you.
Awesome. So let me share my screen. All right. So before we'll move to the next slide, just we've seen the way this integration works between ApprovalMax and Telleroo. For those of you who are not yet familiar with what ApprovalMax in the first place, how these workflows are being built and so on, let me show you briefly the way it works. So just to give you a bit of a context of what we are seeing here, ApprovalMax, since it's an add-on to your Xero or QuickBooks Online Oracle NetSuite account, the main idea behind the product would be to take data points from your Xero or QBO account, like your list of suppliers, like your tracking categories, like your items that you're purchasing, categories, and so on, and the users, those who will be actually approving things. And once we'll add both of those things into your account, we'll be able to build a workflow. A workflow, it is nothing more than just a sequence of approval steps where each and every person knows exactly what they need to approve based on the approval matrix, based on the rules that we've provided to them. So here, if we'll take a look on this build, creation, review, and approval workflow, we'll see that I have two approval steps. One is the location directors, the other one is the board approval step. In case I need to create more approval steps and add more and more people, it's no problem. I can just simply click on the plus sign, drag my approval steps whenever I need to. Let's say this one will be our legal department, and add as many approvers as I want. Let's say it's gonna be Mike. Oh no, I do have Mike already here. Well, maybe let's say it's gonna be Kate and it's gonna be Jim. And next part, that's where all the magic happens. That's where our data points from Xero are actually being used. It's when we're going into our approval matrix, where each column here will represent different data point. And we can build up our matrix based on the different parameters. It might be simply based on the amounts, might be based on a combination of things like account codes and amount, whatever you can think of. So let's say that Jim will be approving everything that is over or equal to £3,000. And they will be approving only on behalf of specific account codes. So let's say it's going to be legal expenses for Jim and direct expenses. And for Kate, it will be everything else except for these two. So I'll create a rule account does not match. So legal expenses and direct expenses. Now, just like that, we've created a very simple 3 approval step environment where each and every bill will go through from one step to another, and we will check who can approve such bill. So let's say here I have location directors. So if a bill belongs to the London office, it will go to Maria. If it belongs to New York, it goes to Mike, and so on. Then after that, it will go under the legal department where they will check what needs to be approved. And at the very end, we'll have the board approval step, which has a bit higher amounts. Once we've done with that, now we can just activate the workflow or update the workflow in our case, and everything will be working properly. So for the users, the whole process becomes very, very seamless, very straightforward, because we have pretty much just one screen for our users where they can do all of their work. It's called Requires My Decision. And here you will find each and every bill across all of your companies, across all of your workflows, where you as an approver need to make your decision. So here, for example, I have a bill from Airbnb, which was sent from Dext for Spinnaker company. I have also a bill from Airbnb for Mainsail LLC, and I have purchase order to Apple for Kafkaesque Accounting. So all of those bills and all of those purchase orders are shown to me within just one place. On the right side of the screen, let me show that to you on this example, I will see the actual bill, which will include all the relevant data, including the line items. If there is any attachments, you'll be able to see those attachments here, either in full screen mode or in a side-by-side mode. If you're using Xero Budget Manager, you can enable budget checking feature, and that will show you what is the budget, what is the remaining budget that you have in Xero Budget Manager, and how does that compares against the bill or the PO that you're approving right now. So here, as you can see, I have bill for ApprovalMax, which is coded to product department for account code subscriptions. Therefore, here I will only see budget for the same department, for the same account code. I will see what is my remaining budget, and I'll see what is the impact of the bill that I'm approving right now. On top of that, if I want to have even more robust spend control, I can enable match with PO function. So every time that I'm receiving a bill, you'll find that there is a match with PO button here on the bottom of the screen. So once I click on this one, well, I don't have any purchase orders for ApprovalMax. Maybe I do have it here. So for Airbnb, I have one purchase order. So once I click on match with PO, it will show me the list of all the purchase orders which are not yet marked as billed and has the same supplier name and same currency. And then I can allocate certain amounts. Maybe let's say it's going to be 300 from this bill to the purchase order. Click on save. Now I do have matching between both of these financial documents. And once I'll approve this bill, and since I'm the only person here under the approval workflow, it automatically goes into my Xero account under awaiting payment with a very important document. It's called the audit report, something that I've already told you. These audit reports, let me show that on another example. It is just a PDF document which shows us who made the decision and when they've made it and why they've made it. So the same audit report, as you can see from the Telleroo presentation, it's also flowing through to Xero account, and then we can see who actually made that. So it makes process much more secured from both sides. We have our users here within just one place making their approval decisions. Once it's fully approved, automatically it's streamlined over to Xero under awaiting payment. That's where Telleroo can pick it up, and then you can create a payment run. So that's on a general level the way it works. Now coming back to the presentation. So the next one, it's another poll. It's more for understanding what is your email preferences in case you would like to receive some additional information from our side. So let me just run that. I believe because of the live transcript, it takes super long for my computer. Just a second.
While you set that up, I'll just pitch in. Someone asked if recording will be sent out, and it absolutely will. So if you need to drop off early, that's not a problem. You will absolutely get the recording.
I think I will need to stop the transcript because I cannot really do anything right now because my computer is pretty much blocked now.
Oh no, let me see if I can get it live for us.
Oh, now I can do that. All right. So you should be able.
I think I've got it.
This is always a tricky poll because I'm always scared that everyone who attending is like saying no, but never happened yet. All right, let's see. Already half of the audience voted. Let's wait for a few more seconds. Any last votes? All right, I'll be finishing in 10. Well, that's a very engaged audience. Thank you very much for your votes. I see that vast majority want to hear more from both our systems. So let me end the poll here. I won't be sharing the results. There is no need. It's more for internal use. So now let's move on to the last section of today's webinar. It's the Q&A section. I see that there is already a few questions being sent. So let me see. I have found, Oscar is asking, I have found difficulty around credit notes approvals. Often these are rejected or the Dext AM link doesn't work. Am I setting up the system incorrectly? I would also be interested in hearing PO to invoice matching. Well, starting from the last one, bill to PO matching, I think I've shown you the way it works. But in case you want to understand a bit more about that, feel free to ask this question. Maybe you need to see some other details. In regards to the credit notes, perhaps if you will write a bit later after this webinar to our support team, or maybe we can jump on a one-on-one call with you to take a look on what is your problem, because credit note works perfectly fine. However, it won't be sent from Dext. So in case you were trying to send a credit note from Dext into ApprovalMax, that won't work. It will only work if you'll create your credit note in Xero and put that into a waiting approval state. I believe that's the main issue. But in any case, I'd be happy to hear your thoughts, maybe on one-on-one meeting. Peter is asking, hi, is ApprovalMax and Telleroo are covering different needs, or do they both the same job in just a different way? That's a great question. It's actually a bit different, because if we'll take a look on the process, we received our bill. It first needs to be approved, and once it's approved, then it should be paid. So we are covering these two parts. ApprovalMax is on the approval side and Telleroo on the payment side. So both works better together. Once you'll approve it from one system, it goes into Telleroo to make a payment.
Exactly that.
I think that's a few more questions just for you, Katie. By the way, can you see them?
Yeah, sure. So one here around using Telleroo if you are a QuickBooks user. So Robert asked this question, makes a really good point that bank details are not stored in default, and so you're not able to create batches of payments in the same way. And so we have a number of QuickBooks users, and there are two main ways of being able to do it. One is essentially with a CSV upload that details who you want to pay and the details. And we're still able to run a modulus check. We still have limits on the account. There's still a number of those fraud features, etc., that are still present and usable. So that's one way, is basically a CSV upload. The alternative is actually an export from QuickBooks of what needs to be paid. But what some of our users do is actually use one of the fields under the supplier contacts to put bank details in there. And then when they upload that file, the bank details are already present. So it's not as seamless as a process, Robert, if I'm completely honest with you, but there are ways of doing it. And we've got a number of QuickBooks clients. What I will do is send you an article from our help center that details exactly how it's doable. And then you'll have my details. And I'm happy to run through that with you as well. It's probably the best way of showing you that. Debbie asked, when making bulk payments, where do the funds come from? Is it necessary to transfer money from the company's main bank account to Telleroo? And the short answer to that is yes. So when clients come on board with us, we open an e-money account for that business, and it's ultimately that account that the payments are made from. We get questions on this as to whether clients prefer it that way, how to introduce that to the client. And actually, most of our clients prefer it because it's a separate account that these payments are being made from. And particularly if they're adding an advisor, a bookkeeper, an accountant into that process, it's quite nice to have those funds separately. But similarly, if you're delegating internally within a business and actually you're going to let someone else be responsible for payments, you might not want them having full access to your main bank account. So again, having it siphoned off as a separate place is actually, again, a bit of a safety and security feature there as well.
How to order program, and is that downloadable in App Store? It is a cloud-based solution, so pretty much there is no need to download anything unless you want to download our mobile app. But in order for you to give it a try and play around with that, I think, well, I believe Telleroo also offers you a free trial, but you can always just go on our website and sign up. There is no credit card required. Play around with these workflows, see if that will work for your business, and then if yes, you can purchase the subscription. If not, then you can just simply cancel the trial. So that's the way it works on our side. Okay.
One here, do you have a choice if you want to process them by faster payment or backs? In short, no. All of our payments are sent by a faster payment. So that isn't an option. However, most of our clients that used to use backs came across to us so that they have more flexibility around being able to make same day payments, etc. So it's not something we've had an issue with, and actually is something that we've very much chosen to not go down the backs route.
In the approval workflows, are you able to set up the workflows based on the roles rather than individual? I found that if you set up a workflow with individuals, then if a person has moved on or changed its departments, it takes a long time to update workflows. Well, actually, we're considering a person that will be approving things as a main thing, like a main instance within ApprovalMax. Therefore, approval matrix can only be based on the actual user and what type of things they allow to approve. But in case you need to offboard someone or you need to replace someone with maybe another person, within the user section, if you'll take a look on the main menu and scroll all the way down to the user section, on the right side, you will find that there is an offboard feature. So it will first of all allow you to show where this person is located under which workflows, and then you can replace that person with someone else, and you can select which request you would like to replace as well. So then it takes a couple of seconds, and you don't need to manually do that in the workflow itself. You can just easily do that from the user section. So I hope that answers the question.
What else have we got here? Let me see. There was a question here around, where's it gone? Sorry. Around credit notes and how they are allocated. On that one, Stephanie, I've actually just raised it with our product team because the honest answer is I'm not 100% sure. So let me come back to you on that one with an exact answer instead of giving you a half an answer here now. And then another one from Debbie around remittances. Remittances aren't sent automatically, you still send them via Xero. We don't automatically send them, and that's because some people don't want them sent. I think that's pretty much everything. Has anyone else got any other questions?
Yep. Any last question, guys? Yeah.
Two more there for me. Can you send batch remittances after processing the pay run? Yes, you can. And will Telleroo plan to add international payments? Yes, we absolutely are. Our product and engineering team are hard at work at the moment getting things finalized. We are looking to launch it with a beta group by the end of this year. And then that will be going out to, I guess, our wider customer base next year, which is super exciting. Oscar, if you want to be part of that, want to be kind of kept up to date, please do let me know. Oh, there we go. Follow up, count me in, no problem. Will do. I will pass that message on to Stephen that heads up the product team and ask him to keep you in the loop on that.
Awesome. I see. It seems like we've answered pretty much everything. If there's any last questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A section. Otherwise, we'll be finishing very, very soon. I see that there is how does the future payment selection work? A few more questions just came.
Oh, sorry. I think I did answer that one, but we may have missed it. You don't have a choice as to whether you want to process them by faster payments or backs. All of our payments are sent by faster payment. One new user to Telleroo and a QuickBooks user. How does the future payment selection work? I'm assuming that's in reference to being able to schedule payments. So when you do your upload into Telleroo, you're able to choose the date that those payments are made. And then ultimately that is the date that we will be looking to send them. So they will be queued and scheduled ultimately until that date comes around. But what I will also do for you is put my email address in the chat. Feel free to reach out to me directly. More than happy to jump on a call and walk you through exactly how to do that if you need any support as well. There we go. My email address is in the chat if anyone needs to follow up with me directly on that. Yes, remittance devices can be sent in bulk for payment run in Xero, absolutely. And charges for processing faster payments. So the way that we charge is based on the number of transactions that you make within a month, and they are then split into different bandings essentially. So up to 50 payments, up to 100 payments, and so it's based on that. So the more payments that you make, in theory, the less the charges per transaction. Pricing is on the website, but again, email address is in there. Feel free to follow up with me directly. More than happy to discuss your individual needs and what pricing looks like for you. I think that's it, Alex. We're good.
Yeah, I think we're done here. All right, then. Well, first of all, thank you very much for attending today's webinar. I hope that was useful and you learned something new for both on accounts approval side and the payment side of the things. And hope to see you among one of our happy customers. Thank you, Kaylee, for being here with us today. Thank you for all of your questions. You'll receive the link. You'll receive the recording very, very soon. And have a lovely rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me. Bye.